I might steal some of the break time just to introduce myself because I did not actually plan an introduction at all, and I'm not actually sure how many people here know me. I mean, I get around. People hear my name and see my stuff, and I spam everywhere. But I wasn't really sure how many people are familiar with my background or the things that I've done. So if you don't mind, I'll take over and let you see a question.
Yeah, it's okay. You can just take over. It's fine, I think.
Yeah, I just don't. If he has any more questions, I'll just stop because it's just I just want to explain some of my background and
I
where some
think
of
I'm
this is coming
good
from. Okay,
for now.
super.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, sorry to be stingy.
Yeah, it's just a couple of extra minutes, whatever. That's
Yeah,
yeah. If you want to go ahead, go ahead. No one's gonna
yeah,
stop you.
just super great. All right, so hey, everyone, my name is Ian Glidewell. I am a kind of a career person who has been developing on games and different entertainment media for a kind of a long time. We I'm currently working now with Remort Studios, which is my own little company where we're working on making visual novels and interactive entertainment of that sort. So most of my background comes from consulting with indie devs all along the East Coast for the last couple of years. I've done work anywhere between writing, which has been kind of my bread and butter, programming, which has gotten to me to my day job. I've also been working on doing promotional stuff and marketing for quite a number of indie devs that you probably haven't heard much of because a lot of it's local arcade-based things. But so a lot of my background when it comes to marketing and advertising, and hopefully you'll get something out of this, it stems from just a couple of years of worth of research on visual novels and people who consume them throughout the various communities that I've been attached to. And hopefully this presentation gives you some insight on maybe something you can do to do research for your products before we get to that point. So I'm going to probably wait a couple of minutes because I don't know if everyone's back yet. So I don't know what time we're looking at here.
Yeah, it's fine. You're officially starting 5 minutes later, so we have 5 minutes to just relax.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
Super.
I don't know, but let's see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 more talks after this, and then we're done.
Wow.
That day kind of blew by.
Yeah, this has been crazy. Yeah, just with all the talent here and just all the talks that we've had, honestly I'm exhausted. And I haven't been presented yet. This is great. Just from all the information that we're getting here and all the people I'm getting a chance to talk to. So just
God,
it's been
I'm,
an
I'm the
amazing
opposite.
experience.
I got 3 hours of sleep last night, and I'm just super excited right now. Like all these talks have been super motivating.
And the adrenaline is just kicking in. Man, let's see. No, the sad thing is we can't do the let's all go out for drinks thing after this. We'll have to drink
That's why we had to drink
on
the
our
whole time.
computers.
Yeah, we're drinking here. Trust me.
It's one of the things that we really should aim for in the future if we get this thing big enough, and hopefully if we all make enough money that we can afford to fly somewhere.
Oh my, that'd be great.
That would be amazing.
I feel genuinely bad for Devona right now. Div is one of the devs in Dev Talk with us, and I'm gonna go ahead and plug it again because I'm gonna mention it.
Drink.
And yeah, but Div's over in New Zealand, which is like basically it's the opposite time zone of well, sorry, Thailand. I'm sorry, you're right. Your VN is set in New Zealand, is what it was. Yeah, it's a 12-hour time zone difference. So he's been up, and it's like 5 a.m. now, listening to this.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm so happy he's here, but like at the same time, I don't envy him.
Uh-huh. We have a we had most of the day like 61, 65 or so attendees, and we've only dropped down to 58. So only a few people have like collapsed and
Yeah, I had to commit to basically watching the video recordings of the morning because like, oh, I should be up in the morning 8:30. I got 1. I'd be at work at 11. This isn't going to happen.
This is why I picked it up to be on a Saturday, because I knew a lot of us are going to be like passed out on Sunday. Just from
Yeah.
exhaustion.
I wasn't really supposed to work today. It was a funny thing. And then my coworker's like, "Oh, I have a gaming convention today." I was like, "When did you tell me this? August? Oh, whoops! This is why you put things in your phone
So
calendar."
props to you for doing your presentation. I assume in like your current workplace, like in a side room somewhere.
No, there's only one room, so I'm actually in the main store. No one came in until after it finished. It's like, oh, I am in luck.
Wow. All right. So that's presenting under pressure.
Yeah.
I'm in
I
my
was
PJs.
glad I got it done. I mean,
It's like at any point during my speech, someone can walk in and I have to say, "Hello, how may I serve you for the?"
that was like, and so now we have to. Oh, hello, welcome. Do you have any questions? Well, feel free to. Yeah, this is an interesting interruption.
So we lucked out here. All right, it's 4:49, so we can start at any point, Ian.
All right. Yep, sounds good.
right,
You
let's do
can call
this.
me Nye too. I am totally okay with that too. So
Cool.
anyway, like I mentioned, I am Nye. I'm from Remort Studios. We are visual novel developers now, and I'd like to take some time to talk about experimental marketing and kind of talk a little bit about what marketing is and some techniques you can do to do some marketing research prior to getting your project off the ground. Now, I'm going to go into some quick definitions so that we're all on the same page as I go forward with this. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of kick right into it. So first off, I just want to define what marketing is. And the American Marketing Association defines marketing as the activity, set of institutions and process for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, society at large, et cetera, et cetera. So there's quite a bit to that, but the point I'm going to really hang on right here is going to be in our next slide here. It's going to be value. One of the things that I've encountered with a lot of the devs that have come through either my community, through Dev Talk, or I've interacted with Limisoft, talked to on the subreddit, or just engaged with directly on Kickstarter or Twitter, is that their product doesn't seem to have a very clear defined value for the people that are consuming it. And by that, what I mean is, well, you'll see. If the slide comes up, there we go. That they're selling products that no one needs, wants, or asked for. And this is kind of a brutal statement, but this is really how marketing works. This is how product selling works. This is how selling works. Your product has to offer some kind of value, and if no one needs it or no one wants it and no one asks for it, then it's not going to sell. That's what's going to happen. So it's really important that you do some marketing research prior to really driving forward with it. Now, I know a lot of people here are probably like, well, I don't want to make things for them. I want to make things for me. Well, I'll get to that in a moment, but just to kind of keep things moving along, I'm not super sure how well this is paced, so bear with me. But people express in all sorts of ways on things they want. So if you guys are following along on the slides or if you're just watching the presentation, there's a massive amount of ways that people tell you the kind of things they want. You can do it from a casual conversation. If you look at some of the feedbacks, reviews, and things like that, you can really get a solid gauge of what these people like. And if you know how to read it, if you know how to understand what they're getting at, you can kind of work with the information that they're giving you, even if you're not doing solid market research and if you're not doing quantitative research. The other thing is, too, sometimes they want things that they don't ask for. We're getting to that slide that everyone was talking about. So some people want things that they don't understand exist, and this is where a lot of indie devs can really shine, because they can create things and maybe they'll pick up on the success, maybe they won't. I mean, we have a lot of devs that create things that are just purely their own creations and something that comes straight from the heart and fails miserably, or sometimes that happens and then the opposite happens. We have people who are such smashing successes because they're filling a need or filling a want that no one knew to ask for to begin with, so they have zero competition going into it. And it's a fantastic occurrence, but it's not reliable. It's not sustainable as a business practice. So a lot of people, like I said, don't know to ask for some things. And I mean, as one of these examples, a lot of people love if it comes up, Necopara. But they didn't know to ask for an OVA. A lot of people probably did ask for an OVA, but I guarantee you far, far more people didn't know to ask for it. So when it was offered, when it was finally offered to people, it went crazy. I mean, look at these numbers. They have, I mean, this is an old screenshot. This is from 2-3 days ago. And they're completely demolishing this goal of 100,000 to produce this OVA of like 20 minutes. Now it's an hour long, but people didn't know to ask for this. But when it was offered to people, it's huge. And some obviously there are some really easy go-tos from this because we're talking a lot of VNs do have anime adaptations, so this wasn't a huge stretch. But this is kind of one of the examples that we're currently working with where people don't really know to ask for things that we could offer them, but obviously have some value to them. So this is why we want to do market research, so we can kind of understand A, the things that they want, and B, the things that they'll pay for. So just to kind of move into this, because I want to get to the meat of this really quickly. So how do we make things that we want to make as indie developers and get to the people that want to buy things? How do we service these customers? And that's, again, the heart of it. So most indie developers have this approach to it, and it's kind of brutal, and I'm sorry if I'm hurting any feelings here, but most of the people come up with this idea that they think is just awesome. It's just amazing. They make it as hard as they can. They do something with it to promote it. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just put it on Limisoft. Maybe they just put it 1 or 2 places, but they don't really talk about it. They don't really do any research, and they may not profit from it. Sometimes they get the smash, like I said. Sometimes they don't. It usually doesn't happen. It's not really sustainable to keep doing it like that. And a lot of the entrepreneurial way, where we can just take a look at a formula that exists. I mean, we're talking High School Romance, Eroge. I mean, if we're looking at ecchi stuff, I mean, you can look at Winged Cloud. Go ahead and take a shot, guys. We could take a look at Winged Cloud. I mean, they have a very simple formula, which is really cute girls, simple stories, which of questionable value. But their big selling point is it's ecchi. It's cute girls, scantily clad. That's their selling point. And you can go through these steps where you take it in a formula, you emulate on it, you keep doing it, and it will work. I mean, if you understand the formula, if you understand the process well enough, it will absolutely work. But if you don't understand how the audience changes, you can go under really quick. And one of the points that Agi mentioned at the very start of this, these innovation is going to be a big thing for that. But anyway, if you follow the entrepreneur's way, you're not always going to express yourself. You're going to get to the point where you're going to have to do things to survive that you don't want to do, and that's kind of a soul-crushing way. So there needs to be a better approach. We need to have a better approach to this. And that's hopefully what I'm going to hear and really talk about today. So my suggestion is this. We need to experiment. We need to find value, and we need to find audience. And it might not exist where we think it exists now, too. We've got an existing consumer base, which we kind of have an idea of what they will buy and what they would look at, what they'll go after. But we need to consider more than that. So, and the experimentation is going to be part of that. So you're going to need a couple things to get started. This is really meant for small indie developers, maybe some amateur teams. Less so for the big guys. The big guys usually know what they're already doing, especially the localization teams where they already have markets. Rather, they already have products that they know people want. This is for developing a product from scratch. This means doing marketing from day one, including marketing and research. So this might be marginally helpful for the bigger guys, but hopefully more helpful for the smaller guys. So the first thing you need to do, which as some of the other presentators here have already talked about, is know your audience. You need to know who you're going to be talking to, who you're going to be dealing with, and it's usually pretty easy because if you have an idea of what you want to make, you may partially fit the demographic yourself, because I mean unmarried men who like romantic comedies, quote unquote, obviously fit some set of demographics, and if you're like that, you may also enjoy that kind of content as well. And if we're even talking that, developers in this crowd, 18 to 35, I think most of us are in that age range, fit this particular demographic as well, and you guys are actually my audience in this particular case, so this is geared towards you. Hopefully this is providing value too. So I'm not going to go over this too much here. This slide is in the The slide is the one I provided to the group so that people will know excuse me, taking a sip. So people will know that there are things that you can't do and you can't market to. There's some pretty obvious things there. You can go over it in the slides if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and just move on to the second part of this. You also need a place to reach your chosen demographics. You need a community, either make it yourself or you go to a community that already exists. There's a lot of these that already exist right now. And it's not just like RVNs, it's also like other gaming communities, maybe manga communities, anime communities, places where you can reach people that might care about your things. I give a couple examples in here. But one of the things I really want to point out is that these places that I'm suggesting that you go out and find or go out and make yourself, they're not just platforms for you to scream at. These are places for you to sit at a dinner table and be a part of. You want to bring value to these communities that you're going to be a part of because you're going to be a face, you're going to be a name, and you want to be part of the community rather than someone who's just yelling at the community. And that kind of goes into the next part of this. Pay attention, because when you are in these communities, the opportunities are everywhere in these communities. You can hear, you can see, you can do all kinds of things just by paying attention. You can learn so much about what people want and what people need in their entertainment just by not talking. Lurk for a while in some of these communities and you'll learn quite a bit about what people want. Read reviews, read other people's reviews on their products, see what people like. Talk to people. Absolutely talk to people and ask questions, you know, oh, hey, why do you like this? Or what's your favorite thing about this? I mean, some of it's a little forced and try to blend in with the community, but do your research. This is how you do your research. Be a part of these communities. So to actually get to the experimentation portion, though, and this is really the methodology that we're approaching now for our visual novel, is that you're going to need two really critical components, and this is going to be kind of the key point to starting this experiment. What we want to do is we need a log line and a key visual, and I'm going to go into what these are now. So a log line is, according to Blake Snyder from Save the Cat, a log line is a 1 or 2 sentence description of your movie, which, you know, this is for VNs, but still. That tells us what it is. It must contain a type of hero, etc., etc. It's going to explain it a bit. Now, logline is, to a lot of people, sort of an elevator pitch for a story. This is strictly story. We're not talking about gameplay mechanics. We're just strictly talking about plot. It's important to narrow this down to a 1 or 2 sentence, a concise 1 or 2 sentence description, so that A, you have a clear vision of what you're marketing, and B, so you can quickly tell the people what it's about. And it's really important that it's concise because you're going to be doing this a lot. You're going to be hitting a lot of people with it. So, and I have an example of this. This is actually ours, and I'll go ahead and read it aloud. When a notorious serial killer's conviction is overturned, the former child detective that put him away must return to the street to prove his guilt. This is kind of the primal plot summary of our visual novel. It's short, concise, and quick. It's not specific. We don't tell names, but we do tell over sort of the overall topic of it. And now we also need to talk about key visuals, and hopefully I'm not going too fast here. But key visuals are sort of the artistic part of, well, not the artistic, but the visual part of this, the artwork. Filmmakers typically call it the poster, novelists call it the book cover, and we call it the box art. It's an image that conveys tone, theme, and genre, and cheap narrative concept of a product. A lot of people see this in their cover images on Kickstarter, their cover images on Steam, and most of their primary graphics and advertisements. You see it everywhere, but you might not know what it's called. These also tend to set the tone for the when they're initially created. They also tend to set the tone for other derivative parts of it, like say sprites or backgrounds or such like that. They take the color theme of it and just kind of move the tone and make it consistent. But to kind of give some examples of that, this is one of our key visuals, and I have 2 more as well. This is the key visual for when the shutter stops, and here we kind of quickly display. It's a dark kind of a theme. She's sneaking around a corner. It's shadow. She's following a shadow on the wall, it's going to lend some intrigue and some sort of the darker elements, and we can even quickly convert that into a title graphic, like on Steam. So it's really important that we get that down. And we have another one from one of our members from Dev Talk where he uses sort of this mystical theme where he has a lady clasping the face of this person. This quickly tells you that there's this relationship between these two people. It's a darker tone, kind of a mystical theme, and this is kind of sells the point that this is the art style that they're going to be using, and that's another key point to that. And the last example that I have too is from Pixel Princess Blitz, which is a friend from a friend of mine that is working with Lance Games. You can see from this key visual that it's very lighthearted. It's kind of adventure-y feeling. You see the main character there smiling and among these mountains and carrying this whole backpack, an ordeal, and the logo is kind of built into it, so it's a little bit of branding, but and that sort of deal. Now that you have a concise one or two sentence description of your product and a key visual piece to show off, you need to really start testing with it. And I'm going to start getting into some testing methodology here. So what you want to do is you want to take to some of your community members, some of the people that you know. You can even use things like MTurk, Mechanical Turk, to do surveys based off of using that to get opinions on the structure of your log line and the concept of your log line. Ask some qualifying questions like, does it sound interesting? Why does it sound interesting? And if you get a lot of responses back that it's not interesting, you're going to need to refine it, which might also mean refining your story. Maybe the problems in the story, maybe the problems in how you wrote it. So now we did a couple tests for the R log line, and just a couple quick points here. I just want to show how testing might work. We grabbed about 35 people to do the testing with it, and this is the very first test that we did, very first log line. I don't actually have the content of that log line here. I have it in one of my files. I just haven't dug it up yet. But anyway, we went through and the results were really horrible. We got 4 positive review, pieces of feedback on it. A bunch of people were indifferent to it, and 9 people flat out could not believe that they would read it. And we took it and we revised the log line so that we stuck with the same plot, but we changed the wording of it just to see if it was any better. And the results weren't much better. We had a couple more people who said they liked it. This was the same test group. But we had basically the same amount of people who either didn't care or just would not even touch it. And then we did another test, the same number of people, 35 people, with the current one that we're using, and we had a completely different response. We had, across 35 people, we had 24 people say it was good. 9 people weren't really sure. We had 1 person who just didn't answer, and we had 1 person who said they wouldn't read it. And we took that one and decided to revise it to see if we could make it any better. And it actually went kind of in a worse direction. We had 13 people say it was a good change. 21 people said they didn't really care for it, and most of the people that saw the second one, that also saw the first, believed that the first one was better. So from that testing, though, we kind of discovered that this particular logline, this particular plot summary, was the best one that we could go with, so we're stuck with it. And by doing this, what we've discovered is it's a story that someone wants. We know that people want this story based off of our testing, and it's a story that I want to tell. It's a story that we want to tell. So we've gotten to the point where we've done the research, and we're now at this golden point where we're both working on something that we want to do, and we're working on something that will possibly succeed. And this is kind of the golden point where a lot of devs really want to have this confidence. And if any of your tests fail when you do the logline, you've got to redesign and keep trying. Research is iterative. Research is tiresome, and you will fail. And as Wolf probably has discussed with in his talk, but you will fail. Key visual testing, though, is a little bit harder because the getting out there and getting your key visual tested tends to have mixed results. We have 2 different methods that we use for designs. We haven't tested our key visual, but we've tested character designs and background designs against some groups. The first way you can test a key visual to see whether or not the look of it feels good, or if it fits the demographic that you're aiming for, is directly asking people, "Hey, does this look cool?" I have really mixed feelings about this because the good thing is that you can get some really specific advice on how to improve it. But a lot of the criticism may be a little bit exaggerated, or it may be muted. It's a mixed bag. It's really hard to tell to get really honest answers from KV testing by doing direct questions. You get a lot of non-specific stuff. So the good thing is it only costs time and not money. So you can do this as much as you want, but you're going to have to really sort through the results to get anything useful. The second method, this is a method that I kind of live by, is taking multiple designs, which we actually have done for our character designs, and do A/B testing, which is a marketing term which I recommend highly that you take a look at and do some research on how to do, because I'm not going to be able to go into it super in depth. But doing A/B testing for any kind of graphical element is a great idea. This is something that usually comes out of the bag of web designers, web developers. So the good thing about this sort of testing methodology is that you're taking advertisements and you're using two different competing graphics, and you're seeing which one gets more attention from people that you're showing it to. And in sites like Facebook, Twitter, and other places where they have kind of an open advertising platform, you can use this to narrow it down to specific demographics, especially the ones you're targeting. So the good thing about this, like I was saying, is you get concrete objective data based on who clicks on what advertisements and how many times they click on advertisements, usually across several thousands of people. You can get a really good idea of which visual concept works better and generates more interest. Unfortunately, it's completely useless for getting any kind of specific feedback from the people you're doing it on. So doing both the first one and this one is a great idea. Another thing is that it can be hard to read the data for this too. You don't really know whether or not you're going to really be able to use the data, because if you don't know exactly the reason people are clicking on one rather than the other, you might not be able to actually use any of the data to improve on the design. So again, doing both is preferable. The major downside to this is it does cost both time and money. Ads can take. You can run an ad for an entire day with two competing graphics, and it would cost X amount of dollars. And depending on what platform you're on, it could cost either way. But that's the major downside to this, is that if you don't have the money to invest in it, it can be really hard to do the part of it. So thankfully, most platforms like Facebook and Twitter aren't super expensive. They usually pay by the click, and usually if you don't get any kind of results, then anyway. It's not super expensive, so don't be afraid of it. Go do some research. If you want to talk to me about it too, I'll be more than happy to discuss more in depth later. Anyway, so coming all together, when you have a tested logline and a tested key visual, you're going to have a short and powerful attention-grabbing 1-2-sentence summary of your product with demonstrated appeal. You know people will want it. This is extremely empowering from a dev perspective for motivation, and it also lends a lot of confidence to your just ability to sell to on a Kickstarter platform, or just get support from other people. Other people will be able to see this and know that you have that confidence and that research done. You're also going to have a concise graphical element from which you can derive a lot of your other content from. So if you do this before you dive headfirst into a project, you're going to have such a head start on everything that you're working on, from plot to design, that it'll put you leagues ahead of any other person who does not do this. So as a fresh indie dev, I highly recommend you to do both types of testing, both for loglines and key visuals, and it's going to put you in a much better place to sell your game when you get further along. And this last part, of course, I just forgot that I just reiterated that. But it's important to remember that you're going to fail along the way more than a few times. Keep iterating, try again, try again, try again, try again, until you start getting some success. And it might take some time, but it's absolutely worth it to do this research before you start kicking off your product. So anyway, that's all I have. Hopefully I didn't go too fast or too slow. I have no idea what time it is. But
pretty much nailed it.
awesome. Yeah. I'm out of breath now. Anyway, so anyway, thanks for having us. It's been a great experience thus far. Thanks, Agi, for inviting us and letting us be a part of this. So if you have any questions, I'll be in the chat or in Dev Talk. So thank you very much, guys.
Yep. All right. So we have just enough time.